Welcome. Thanks for joining us. This is the IU Ventures Annual Meeting. I'm Tony Armstrong. I'm the President and CEO of IU Ventures, and thanks for joining us today. This is our third annual meeting. We're going to go back over some of the events and the highlights from 2020. And I think, like me, you're going to be pretty amazed at what the IU Ventures team was able to accomplish last year. Despite a pandemic and a lockdown and lots going on, the team really accomplished an amazing amount. We're going to share that with you this afternoon. So if you can go to the next slide, please. Let me quickly introduce the team you're going to hear from today. You'll hear from Jason Whitney, who leads our IU Angel Network and helped get that up and going in 2020. You'll hear from Terry Willie, who joined us now almost 3 years ago to help create and establish and build up the IU Philanthropic Venture Fund. Mike Burton, our CFO, long-serving and worked with me since the get-go in this. We have Jim Fielding with us. Jim just joined after a long career on the West Coast with Disney and Fox, and he's helping us out as an entrepreneur in residence now. John Beretta, who just joined recently from the Bloomington Health Foundation and time here at IU and at Butler to help us fundraise and with events and those types of things. And then Samantha Ginther, who really does a lot of everything for us and has been instrumental in putting this event together and helps lead the due diligence efforts for us and leads our student experiential learning experience. And then really a special thanks goes out to Samantha in getting this event together today and helping us prepare for this. So we can go to the next slide, please. We thought we'd just talk about sort of in 4 different ways that we're actually working to enable IU entrepreneurs. The first, as many of you know, is in investing in and then helping to nurture those startups as they get going. And we're really doing that in sort of the way that Bill Haverly long ago with the Center for Entrepreneurship here talked about sort of this concept of nurture capital, really trying to bring together not only that funding, but really all those other support services that are needed as startups get going. We're really engaging our IU alums all around the world, as Jason will share, in helping to bring those needed services and funding and help to get those going. We're partnering with different groups around the state, really around the country and around the world to help us do that and really be in some ways a bridge for the university, that we're able to take what's being done inside the university and share that outward, but also bring all those resources and all that expertise and knowledge back into the university to help in what we're doing. And then finally, as I mentioned, student experiential learning and really trying to help students be a part of what we're doing. So let me turn it over quickly to Terry Willie, who's going to share with you what's going on with the Philanthropic Venture Fund.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for everyone for joining us today. We have a growing portfolio of excellent opportunities, and about 70% of these are located in Indiana. They spawn several industry sectors. About half of them are SaaS or software as a service companies, 10% are deep tech, 40% are life science and environment related, and all are founded by IU alumni, faculty, staff, or students, or have IU alums in the C-suite. About a third are working to commercialize intellectual property developed at Indiana University and licensed into the company through the Indiana University Innovation and Commercialization Office, or the ICO. The ICO is a crucial partner in our efforts at IU Ventures. We take best practice seriously in management of this growing portfolio and have been recognized for this. For example, in Elevate's recent Venture 2020 report, IU Ventures was recognized as one of the top most active funds in Indiana in 2020. We have been a finalist for the Mira Venture Fund Award 3 years in a row in recognition of our contributions to the Indiana innovation landscape. And just last week, Indiana Business Journal noted our participation in top venture deals in Indiana in 2020. So I think it's fair to say that IU Ventures punches above its weight with a small team supporting a growing portfolio of companies and venture programs. Best practice at IU Ventures also includes supporting diversity in our portfolio company leadership. Over 50% of the companies we have invested in since 2018 have underrepresented founders or leaders in the C-suite. Attention to diversity in this regard is one of our investment criteria. It's the right thing to do, and there is a growing body of evidence that diverse, equitable, and inclusive companies build better products, recruit the best team, and produce better financial results. Next slide, please. This is just a snapshot of our investment activity just for 2020. When the pandemic hit, we engaged with our portfolio founders to support them where we could. We continued to meet and advise, though virtually, IU founders starting companies, continued due diligence on the new opportunities, and on existing investments. We continued regular meetings with our investment committee, resulting in 9 investments. And as you'll hear from Jason, IU Ventures successfully launched the IU Angel Network in 2020. Several of our companies have been lauded for their contributions during this pandemic, and many will contribute to the post-pandemic recovery. We are inspired by these entrepreneurs. Next slide, please. So the Indiana Philanthropic Venture Fund is one of our investment resources at IU Ventures. The fund was launched in 2018 as an evergreen fund with 15 million in commitments. The fund is operating, however, as an 11 million fund for now, as 4 million in commitments were walked back in the first quarter of 2020, and donation fundraising was paused with the onset of the pandemic. So what is an evergreen fund and how is it different from other funds? The Indiana Philanthropic Venture Fund is similar to most traditional early stage venture funds, except the funds we invest are donated, and the money we make from our investments is returned to the fund for further investment to support IU founders and entrepreneurs. And we are Indiana University specific. That is, we only invest in companies which are developing IU intellectual property or have IU alums as founders or in the C-suite. Since our launch in March of 2018, we've met with and advised founders of over 350 opportunities. 10% of these have moved to full due diligence and investment case development, then onto our investment committee for consideration. This resulted in 18 initial investments and substantial co-investment and follow-on investment, which is good news for our IU entrepreneurs. We've had 1 early exit. This demonstrates the evergreen model. That is, when Doxley was acquired by Latera 9 months after our investment, the exit returns provided resources for IU Ventures to make 2 more investments. We think we're on the right track in that 70% of this portfolio is showing an increase in value since our initial investment. That is based on stock price in subsequent rounds and 409A valuations. We are also seeing steady increases in revenue, employment, and strategic partnerships across the portfolio. So these indications of increased value are a positive sign that there will be equity returns in the future necessary to support an evergreen resource for IU founders. However, now the pipeline of excellent opportunities continues to grow. So we are especially pleased John Beretta has joined us to lead donation fundraising for the fund to ensure our continued support of IU founders and entrepreneurs. John?
Thank you, Terry. I'm very excited to be part of the IU Ventures team. It's been a wonderful first couple of months for me here, and specifically to have the opportunity to support IU entrepreneurs. We all know that starting a new venture is hard work, and it takes certainly more than a great idea to make that happen. And the IU Philanthropic Venture Fund helps bridge a gap in startup funding by making equity investments in high potential early stage companies with IU affiliations. And in doing so, it enables and encourages IU founders to be significant IU donors. The IU Philanthropic Venture Fund, as Terry said, is different from traditional venture funds in 2 important ways. First, the fund exists as a donated pool of capital, providing opportunity for donors to support IU entrepreneurs. And secondly, the fund is designed as an evergreen fund, which means portfolio investment returns are reinvested, helping to ensure a perpetual resource of capital for IU entrepreneurs. Donors to the fund are like-minded individuals who want to support IU entrepreneurs and founders. They want to create lasting social and economic impact. They want to foster economic growth locally, regionally, and globally. If you're interested in learning more or would like to make a tax-deductible gift to the fund via our partners at the IU Foundation, please feel free to contact me. Another important source of capital for entrepreneurs is angel investing, and my colleague Jason Whitney will provide an overview and an update on the IU Angel Network.
Thanks, John. Despite obviously difficult social and economic conditions that we are pleased to report that throughout 2020, the IU Angel Network put to work over $1 million into 10 IU affiliated startup companies. Our network of angels, made up of alumni, faculty, students, and parents of students, participate in monthly investor education sessions and networking events, in addition to gathering to review a unique investment opportunity each month. With the tremendous support of the corporate sponsors you see listed below, we have some enhanced national outreach planned in 2021, in addition to some very unique engagement programming to celebrate the IU entrepreneurial spirit. Next slide, please. The foundation for this tremendous growth is rooted in the intentional development of national innovation nodes, which we began curating in 2019. By leveraging our deep-rooted relationships in communities like Boston, Boulder, and LA, we were able to recruit new investors as well as startup founders and integrate them quickly into our programming. While those local efforts continue, we have also expanded to the greatly untapped international community. By working closely with the IU Global Gateway Centers, we are curating international alumni communities passionate about IU, but also focused on commercializing innovations across the globe. Additional opportunities for engagement are coming through our Founders Fireside Chat series, which highlights interesting entrepreneurial stories and gives our students an opportunity to engage with influential alumni, as well as the continued development of our Founders and Funders Network, which improves communication and visibility to opportunities campus-wide. John will share more about those efforts in just a minute. The end of 2020 also brought the formal launch of the IU Angel Network Sports Innovation Initiative. This collaborative project is designed to identify and support IU-affiliated founders running companies in the sports tech, health and wellness, data science, and esports spaces. This program has already surfaced opportunities to enhance athletic performance by identifying areas where coaches and trainers could utilize technology to improve their processes, and our network can assist in the development and funding of those solutions. I'll now pass it back over to John, who will share more about what the Founders and Funders Network will look like in 2021.
Thanks, Jason. In 1946, when Dr. Bill Haberly joined the Indiana University Kelley School of Business faculty, no one could probably foretell at that time that he would later become known as Indiana's godfather of entrepreneurship. Over a career spanning 6 decades, Dr. Haberly taught and mentored thousands of entrepreneurs and was known for inspiring them to go beyond their comfort zones. In his autobiography, I Never Worked in a Day in My Life, Dr. Haberly wrote, "Entrepreneurs are among those whose ambitions extend beyond the norm." And it is in honor of Dr. Haberly's vision of the entrepreneur and in service to the literally thousands of IU-affiliated entrepreneurs, innovators, and investors who embody this spirit, and in pursuit of improving the quality of life for Hoosiers and the world, that the IU Founders and Funders Network is dedicated. Launching later this year, the IU Founders and Funders Network exists to develop and activate IU's global venture network. It is a passionate, supportive membership network of IU-affiliated entrepreneurs, innovators, investors, and industry experts who are interested in advancing the virtuous circle that nurturing new venture brings with it. Membership benefits include access to exclusive education events, virtual and in-person networking, and student engagement opportunities. IU Ventures now is accepting pre-launch applications. A link to sign up is available in the chat. We hope you'll consider joining the IU Founders and Funders Network. For more information about how IU Ventures is advancing Indiana University's academic mission, please meet my colleague, Samantha Ginther.
Thanks, John. So we are involved with students in a lot of different ways. We're really focused on furthering student innovation and experiential learning. So we have a great group of interns that work directly with our team, and we also work hard to connect portfolio companies that we have and companies in our pipeline with interns, as well as other venture capital firms. So we're really trying to give students more experience in both areas. We also have scholarships for BIPOC students, specifically student entrepreneurs, and those are given out as mill memberships to a co-working space here in Bloomington. Our team spends a lot of time coaching and mentoring different student entrepreneurs, and we love doing this. We love being able to provide resources to them and just coach them along. We also have some startup capital. So the soon to launch Shoebox Fund will be launching later this year, and that will be specifically invested in student ventures. We also have invested in Blueprint Stats, which is a student-founded company by Hunter Hawley. And we have also invested in the B Corp, which is no longer a student venture, but it was started by Ellie Sims and Wyatt Wells while they were students at IU. We also spend a lot of time working across campus departments for different pitch competitions. And during class presentations, we're always presenting to classes across campus and participating in club discussions as well for students. So thank you so much. And I think next we will hand it off to Gung Wang, who is the CEO of Civic Champs. And Civic Champs does a great job of including students in their work that they do. So I'll let Gung take it away.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys all hear me? I just want to make sure we're good.
Yes, you're good.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, my name is Gung Wang, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Civic Champs. And yeah, to help you understand a little bit of what we do, I thought I'd provide some context. And so each year, Americans donate $426 billion and volunteer almost 7 billion hours. And so we as a nation are incredibly philanthropic. But what many of us don't think about is that the tools and technology that we use to manage all this giving really hasn't changed since the 1950s. Next slide, please. And 90% of the 400,000 volunteer coordinators across the country still rely on binders and clipboards to track and manage their volunteers. Next slide. And this leads to long hours of manual data entry work. And these time-consuming inefficiencies do matter as they reduce the capacity of the nonprofits to provide services to those in need, including fewer homes for the homeless and fewer meals for the hungry. And Civic Champs solves all of this with our platform, where we leverage technology like geofencing to automate volunteer management, decreasing manual clerical work by 85%. And we solve one of the biggest missed opportunities that nonprofits have, converting volunteers to donors. And so despite the fact that volunteers are twice as likely to donate and donate 10 times more than non-volunteers, the number one reason that they don't is because they were never asked. And so Civic Champs makes this ask at the right time with the right message. And so today, Civic Champs works with over 60 nonprofit organizations across the country, including large ones like United Way, Habitat for Humanity, Boys and Girls Club, and the National Mentoring Partnership, along with dozens of smaller local nonprofits. We've also been blessed to have won several competitions and awards as a company. We kicked things off in April of 2019 with the IU Clock competition, where one of our co-founders, Ryan Underdahl, and IU Kelly MBA won the competition for us. Then in October of 19, we're selected as the Techstars Disrupt Startup Battlefield company, widely regarded as one of the most prestigious startup pitch competitions in the world. And then last year we won $60,000 from Uprise Social Innovation Challenge, $50,000 as a Gold Award winner for Mass Challenge. And finally today, we're finally unembargoed, and I can announce that we're one of the winners of the Reimagine Charitable Giving competition hosted by the Gates Foundation and design firm IDEO. In terms of financially, we've grown in revenue from $9,000 in 2019 to over $200,000 last year, including doubling our revenues since the start of COVID-19. As a team, this is my third startup company. My prior two were successfully sold in 14 and 17. I'm also joined by Chris, Darcy, Mike, and Michael, who combine a deep mix of technical experience and expertise, along with working in and selling to the nonprofit sector. And so in closing, I just wanted to say thank you to Jason, Terry, and Sam, along with the broader IU Ventures team for inviting me to share our story today. In many ways, Civic Champs is really lucky because we launched right after IU Ventures was formed, and to have the support of IU Ventures and the IU Angel Network, we've gotten not just the funding, but also introductions to mentors, introductions to other investors, and even some recruiting. And so, I've really also enjoyed meeting and the other portfolio founders over time, like Ellie Sims and Tyler Henke at Ziptility. And so if you're interested in what we're building, please reach out. My contact is here on the slide. I'd love to talk to you about how we're transforming the nonprofit world. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Gun. We appreciate it. We love Civic Champs. And now I will invite Amplified Sciences. Diana Caldwell is the CEO and an IU alum who will be telling us more about her company.
Good afternoon. Can you hear and see me okay, Samantha?
Yes.
Great. Well, I'm pleased to be here with you all today. I hear that we've got close to maybe even over 200 folks tuning in today to this annual meeting. We are one of the 2020 investor companies for IU Ventures. So let me start by giving a little bit of background about Amplified Sciences. So we are a startup diagnostics company that was founded in 2016 by Joe Davidson. He is a biochem professor at Purdue University. We have licensed and got the exclusive license for patents that have already been issued. They're composition of matter patents from Purdue University. So you're probably wondering at this point, well, why are you IU Ventures? Well, I'll get to that in a moment here. Our mission is focused on accurately detecting and preempting the risk of horrible disease, the most debilitating. We want to start there. And we are a chemistry platform technology for our assays. They're called reagents in diagnostics. And our lead assay that's currently in technical and clinical validation is for the early detection of pancreatic cancer. We also have R&D operations in Purdue Research Park up in West Lafayette, and alliances with sites for research in Boston through Bruker Corporation and San Francisco at UCSF and Alunis, which is also an investor in the company. So the funding to date is we had a pre-seed stage, including some non-diluted NSF funding, et cetera, of $250K. But last year, we were able to close a seed round in the middle of the pandemic, almost hitting our 1.2 million oversubscription rate at 1.14 million. And here's my first ask. We have 86,000 left. And so particularly for the IU Angels, you all are already in on this. But if there's any of you that are interested in joining us, we've left that open. Next slide, please. I want to first just give you a flavor for the problem we're solving. So that's a picture of a pancreas. And I want you to imagine that you're a patient and you're having some stomach problems. They've been going on a couple of weeks and they're pretty severe. So you book an appointment with your primary care physician. She examines you and says, I think it's your gallbladder. So she orders a CAT scan. The CAT scan comes back clean for your gallbladder. It's fine. But she says, I need to refer you to a specialist because you have a cyst or a growth on your pancreas. You go home and do some research and Googling and you're scared. You understand there is a connection between cyst and pancreatic cancer. And pancreatic cancer is the 4th deadliest cancer in the US, typically diagnosed very late because it's asymptomatic to late stages. You go see the specialist and he talks to you about the decisions you have to make to decide whether you remove that. It's not an easy procedure to remove those. It's called a Whipple procedure. And doctors lack good clinical diagnostics today to help them make the decision. Is this malignant, pre-malignant, or is it benign? So that's what we're up to. Next slide, please. The team in place has strong IU ties. So we've got 2 at the C-suite, both the inventor and my co-founder, Dr. Joe Davidson, who is an IU alum. He has a master's degree from Indiana University. And then I'm a double dipper. I've got an undergrad in psychology and then an MBA from the Kelley School. Our 2 C-suite folks right now are current IU alum. And we're both pretty involved with the IU Investors team on a regular basis. I'll talk more a little bit about that going forward. Also, we've got 3 guys working in a lab and under Joe and our board member, Andy Cawthorne, which probably many of you know. Next slide. Let me give you just a quick highlight on this year. You can read most of these, but I've already talked about closing the seed round. We've enjoyed some external validation at the national level. We were a finalist in Buzz of Bio. We won the MedCity News Diagnostics Tracks pitch competition. We were invited into a Silicon Valley accelerator called Cubase, and we're honored with an NIH application assistance recipient grant for SBIRs. On the product development front, we've scaled and locked our chemistry and are busy optimizing our Panasys Pro lead assay. We've got a high performing team. It's so fun to work with them and their creativity, and they're cranking out deliverables in the lab. And that's a picture of our lab. It's very pink, by the way. We're red today in honor of IU, but pink is kind of our color. We've also added clinical sites to our core sites that we already had established. That is at IU, and that's one of the biggest value adds that that Terry and her team have added is strong connections at the clinical level through Dr. Al-Haddad and team. And we've added UPMC and Fox Chase to also, I already mentioned UCSF is a strong clinical partner. And paincan.org is, if you check them out, they're the leading advocacy group in the pancreatic cancer arena. And we have a partnership with them and are working with their chief medical officer. Also, logos there is a strong industry partnership, which are also potential acquisition partners. We're engaged with all of these folks, having just won a silver grant of $10,000 from Ocean Insights, actually. We did some back end office work and converted to a corporation, and we've got a dream team advisory board that's very engaged on many fronts. Next slide. So just a quick snapshot of where we are. We're here in that seed round. I put the deliverables of the things we're working on right now. We're also actively pursuing, in partnership with IU and some of the investigators there, SBIR grants with the plans to launch our clinical diagnostic in the third quarter of 2022. And we'll be raising and positioning ourselves for a Series A close in Q1, Q2 of 2022. There's the last slide, I believe. You can fast forward that. Thank you. Here's a snapshot of some of the strong external validation. So, you know, from Texas to Silicon Valley to national levels, but we're most proud of that quote from Dr. Al-Haddad at IU Simon Cancer Center, who's one in our advisory board, and the great support we're getting from IU. There's a screenshot there of the press release that went out earlier this year. So any of you, I'll put my email in the chat. And I also forgot to mention, but I think that Samantha's going to put a recent kind of fun news coverage, a 2-minute news story that the West Lafayette ABC NBC affiliate did on us that gives you a snapshot and great shots of our lab. So please check that out. If you're interested in that last 86,000 left in the seed round, send me an email. We also are looking for clinical site connections. We want to hire the best patent attorney with the field diagnostics around. So if any of you are patent attorneys or know folks, please let me know. Always looking for industry company connections as well, and CLIA lab resources. Thanks so much. Really appreciate your time, and thanks for including us.
Thanks so much, Diana. It's great to be able to support you and Joe as both IU alums at Amplified Sciences. And next we have Jackson Boyer with Mentor Collective. And Mentor Collective is a philanthropic venture fund portfolio company. And we're really excited to have Jackson here today. They are based in Boston. So Jackson, I'll let you take it away.
Right. Thanks so much, Samantha. And thank you all for having me. Good afternoon. I want to start things off a little bit less conventionally. I want to ask everyone to take out a phone or just open up a new web page in Google and just type the words "college is" into your browser. This is something that a colleague of mine showed me a couple weeks ago during the pandemic. And I know we can't all see each other here, but you might be surprised by what comes up in your local IP address. I have it up here on my phone. You won't be able to see this very clearly, but mine says, "College is making me depressed. College is a waste of time. College is stressing me out. College isn't for everyone." And you're going to get different results based on your IP code, but this is what students, prospective students, think about college in the age of a global pandemic. This is what we're up against. And I say this as a very, very proud alum of Indiana University. I have my banner here. I just moved to a new apartment, so it's not on my wall yet. I'm a deep believer in the power of higher education. We know when students graduate university, they'll make at least $1 million more in their lifetime. They'll get access to incredible social capital that lives within alumni networks. There is incredible promise in higher education, but when you look at the stats in our country, the majority of students don't graduate from college. And if you are a low-income student or a student of color, your chances of getting a college degree are incredibly low. By the age 25, low-income students, only 15% of them will graduate college. So there's this massive equity gap in American higher education. You can go to the next slide, please. And this is why Mentor Collective, the organization, the company, exists. As our name suggests, we are focused on the high impact practice of mentoring. Universities are perhaps the most socially connected organizations on the planet. You have alumni, you have professors, advisors, faculty, staff, and other students, all who have unique lived experiences that can serve new students as they enter the institution. Mentorship is not a new concept in higher education, but it is something that has rarely scaled and is often not practiced with a high degree of efficacy. So what Mentor Collective does is we are a technology enablement partner to these institutions. We work with over 100 today, ranging from Indiana University, which I'll talk about in a bit, to community colleges, to Ivy Leagues like Princeton and UPenn. And we help them build large-scale mentoring programs so that every single student, regardless of their background, have access to that social support network as they navigate the challenges of higher education. And we know this leads to higher retention rates, better enrollment for the institution, but perhaps most importantly, better student outcomes, better employment rates, better graduation rates that leads to that social mobility, to the promise of higher education. Next slide, please. The Mentor Collective has been working with Indiana University for several years now. In fact, IU is one of our early adopter institutions in Bloomington. But since then, we've expanded to IUPUI. We've recently started working with IU South Bend, and we've been working with the IU Online office, which allows us to access students across the state of Indiana. We've engaged more than 8,000 mentors and mentees affiliated with IU. These are alumni. These are students who are coming together to support student success and the promise of the great institution, Indiana University. So very, very proud of our early work with IU. And it's incredibly impactful to have Indiana University as an investor in Mentor Collective. You know, when we go to Michigan State or Penn State and say, hey, look at what we're doing, look who invests in us, look who believes in us. It really speaks to have IU Ventures on our cap table, not just your typical Silicon Valley venture capital firm. Next slide, please. So we have expanded our work across the student life cycle. Initially, when we started building the company, we're focused on the new student experience. If you're a freshman, a transfer, a graduate student, how do you acclimate to the university experience? How do you make the most of all the resources on campus? But over time, we've started looking at later stages of the student journey. How do we connect a junior or a senior to an alumni mentor who can help them navigate the job search, who can help them find work opportunities? And even in the last several months, we started to think about what happens after you graduate from the institution. How can we partner with employers to support mentorship across the entirety of this journey? And we're thrilled that in the climate of COVID-19, we've really experienced some powerful growth since IU Ventures invested. We were about 25 employees at the time. We're now 55 full-time employees. We've more than doubled our revenue. We've more than doubled the number of customers we work with. We believe now is a time during social distancing that institutions, organizations are recognizing the importance of human connection, of relationships to drive success within their organizations. So we're really proud to be a partner in that capacity. And again, very proud to have Mentor Collective supported by IU Ventures. In terms of the ways you can help, if you know folks at institutions who are interested in this type of work, would love to have a conversation. My email address is jackson@mentorcollective.org. But generally speaking, we're just glad to be a part of this community, and thanks for having us.
Thank you, Jackson. That's terrific. And now to move on to the next part of our program, I'm very pleased to have Ting and Aaron and Patrick with us today to talk about co-investing or syndication. Syndication for us at IU Ventures is about co-investing with venture funds, angel groups, and individuals with sector-specific knowledge. It is important to us because this increases the probability of success for our IU affiliated companies. It does this by addressing financing risk, adding experience to the company's board of directors, and expanding the network of investors, talent, business relationships in Indiana and across the country. Next slide, please. In 2020, for every dollar we invested from IU Ventures, more than $10 were invested by others. In 2020, we co-invested with more than 60 co-investors. Of those co-investors, about a third were venture and angel funds from outside Indiana investing with us or us investing with them for the first time. You just heard from Jackson Boyer of Mentor Collective. Lumina and Strata are investors with us in Mentor Collective, and our impact funds focused on EdTech opportunities, wonderful sector-specific experts. We are fortunate to be investors with Elevate Ventures on a regular basis. OrbiMed, NEA, and Fraser are the Series A investors in MBX Bioscience. They made this notable VC deal possible, one of the largest in Indiana in 2020. MBX is a licensee of IU intellectual property founded by IU's Richard DeMarchi and Kent Holbrook. And we were fortunate to be early investors into this company. Now, next slide, let's get back to the panel. Ting Guti is Chief Investment Officer of Elevate Ventures. We're thrilled to have her with us. Patrick Heron of Fraser Healthcare Partners led the Series A for MBX, and we're glad to have him here today. Aaron Gillum of 50 South, and also leading the Indiana Next Level Fund, has been a constant in helping us with introductions to top tier venture funds. Thank you, Ting, Aaron, and Patrick for being with us today to talk about co-investing and syndication. I'd like you to start by introducing yourselves and your fund, starting with Ting.
Thank you, Terry, for the opportunity to participate. This is my first time attending the IU Venture Annual Meeting, but has really had the privilege and pleasure of working with Terry and the entire team at IU Ventures for the past number of years, even dating back to the Innovate Indiana Fund and early IU RTC days. Just as a brief intro to myself, I've been, Terry mentioned, I've been with Elevate Ventures from almost day one. So it's been almost 10 good years in the running. And prior to that, I spent a number of years at the alternative investments in general. My startup and venture experience really have to give that credit to my IU days. I started my internship, starting as an internship, summer internship at the 21 Fund at the time, back when I was a MBA student back at IU Kelley School of Business. So thank you for the opportunity. And to touch upon a little bit about syndication philosophy, I think most of you in the audience here are familiar with Elevate, our general approach to our investment strategies. From a strategic standpoint, and like we share some of the similar characteristics of IU Ventures in the sense that we do have our dual mission in terms of both community development in general, as well as investment management on the other side of the house. So from a capital strategy standpoint, us being the generalist fund, but also targeting pre-seed and seed stage investment funds with a smaller pool of committed pool of capital compared to later stage fund, financing risk is always top of mind for us. So we're always looking for that, both in terms of a sector specific expertise, fund sector specific focused fund participation in our portfolio deal flow. And from a strategic standpoint, we'll also have our co-investment mandate from an investment policy standpoint. That's because of our community development mission. We do want to see more out-of-state and out-of-community funds participating, investing in our community. And just to wrap up, cite a metric that we quote on a regular basis. Since 2010, we put about 110 million total capital to work to almost 400 companies now. In turn, our portfolio has attracted almost 850 million in co-investment capital. And we have co-invested with almost more than 1,200 co-investors across the board, from individual angel investors, family offices, and fund managers like yours. So thank you for having me here today.
Thanks, team. Aaron?
Sure. My name is Aaron Gillum. Great to be here. This is my first time as well at the IU Ventures Annual Meeting, so this is fantastic. I work with a firm called 50 South Capital. We're an alternative investment arm of Northern Trust Bank based out of Chicago, although I get the pleasure of living in Indianapolis. And like Jerry said, we manage the Indiana Next Level Fund, which is a fund of funds specifically set up to invest in venture capital firms and private equity firms that are then investing in Indiana companies. So you can think of us as kind of like the guy behind the guy or the girl behind the girl. You know, we get a chance to look at the entire venture capital ecosystem and get the opportunity to work with folks like Tang and Patrick. And so, you know, hopefully we bring, you know, a different kind of perspective with regards to putting together co-investment opportunities, syndicate partners, as well as just, you know, general trends in venture capital. So with that, I'll take a break and let Terry continue.
All right, thanks, Aaron. Patrick?
So hi, Aaron. So Aaron is one of my limited partners, so it's great to see him on the screen today as well. So I have a long history with Indiana University. One of the most important people in my life professionally is Gus Watanabe, and he was the head of school of medicine and one of my terrific mentors. And so Gus got me started in doing my first company, Marcadia, 15 years ago. And I like to say my best strategy is just following IU Ventures, because IU Ventures started that company for us. Then I followed IU Ventures into Calibrium, which was a terrific outcome with a sale to Novo. And then I followed IU Ventures into MBX. So, you know, it's worked out very well for me to just ride on the coattails of IU Ventures. We are on our 10th fund, and that's a $600 million vehicle. And, you know, one of the things we pride ourselves on is bringing sort of best in class investors alongside of us. And so that was clearly the case with MBX, where Kent and Richard and team did an awesome job in attracting NEA and OrbiMed to join us. And our general syndication philosophy is we like to have co-investors who roll up their sleeves and dig in and work hard with us. And so that's been our strategy over time.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks very much. So, you know, why you've talked a little bit about your syndication philosophy, but you know, why go co-invest? Wouldn't it just be easier if you were the only money in the round? You wouldn't have other personalities, individuals, organizations to deal with? Why co-invest when it would be easy just to do it solo? Patrick?
Well, the best way to talk about it is probably the MBX example. So, you know, first, because I've known Richard and Kent for 15 years, we decided to lead the financing. And we had a long discussion about the strategy. And one of Richard's goals was basically to build a company that could go public and become a large company of scale, and Kent shared that vision. So the right answer for us was basically to bring in another very deep-pocketed investor to join us in the round. So we introduced the company to 4 or 5 friends, and basically 3 of them signed up, and we decided that we would end up taking 2. Our initial strategy was just to take 1 co-investor, but because of the nature of what we were trying to do, to get, you know, top tier firms of the caliber of NEA and OrbiMed involved made a lot of sense, because we ensured there would be adequate capital to take the company to IPO. And so although it was a negative impact on our ownership in terms of how much of the company Fraser owned, we felt it was the right answer for the company, and therefore we had a broader syndicate.
That's super. So it really helped address financing risk, so you'd have the capital you need to go all the way. But Aaron, how many is too many co-investors?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to have what they call a party round, you know, where you just have a bunch of smaller investors around the table and they don't have enough stake or skin in the game. I like to look at it maybe by stage of a company's life cycle. So if you think about, you know, a seed stage company or Series A, you really need investors around the table who are willing to roll up their sleeves, you know, really willing to dig in and understand the problem that that founder or team is trying to solve, and really work with them to get to that, to get them over the initial humps of an early stage company. You know, as a company continues to progress and get traction and grow, Then you start bringing on, later stage investors or growth investors. These are the people who I think are more about, knowing how much capital it takes to really accelerate the business, to kind of prep you for that exit or acquisition, or if you're lucky, possibly an IPO or some type of public exit. So it really just depends on, putting together the best syndicate partners for the stage of your company, where you're at and where you need the most help.
That's really helpful. So Ting, we've heard about venture investors, and I know that Elevate, and we certainly work with a lot of angel investors. Can traditional venture investors and angel investors co-invest together in harmony? How does that work? When does it work, and when does it not work?
Yeah, that's a great question, Terry. As you can imagine, as I mentioned, we co-invested with over 1,200 investors in the last 10 plus years, and majority of those are angel investors in the stage we're investing in. Typically, we're that first institutional check coming into a certain round or certain company. So we've seen a lot in terms of the angel investor dynamic versus when you bring the new professionally managed funds, introduce a different set of dynamics, both in terms of the governance, as well as just a general alignment strategy or expectation alignment dynamics. That's why when we're talking to companies about when you're out raising funding, particularly the first round, institutional professional VC rounds, always think of them in terms of adding another partner to your business. And these partners are going to have a lot of influence over the strategic direction of the company, how the corporate governance decisions will be made, as well as the company trajectory, right? Some of these companies, they may not be founders or existing angels may not fully understand the venture background. What does that entail? What does that look like? Both in terms of time horizon as well as the daily practice standpoint. And that's when the initial alignment does not quite line up. That's when you starting run into issue points in terms of communication hiccups or expectation hiccups. Occasionally you got investors not quite understanding the true institutional venture dynamics, started presenting interesting challenges when a follow-on round is coming together or the exit opportunities start to take place. So these are the frontline, upfront, strategic, time horizon, and priority alignment are the key points. Again, and also back to angel investors who really kind of understand the venture development or venture funded round, having those in the mix will be super helpful.
Thank you. Thanks, Ting. So Patrick, what's the role of a lead investor when you're pulling a syndicated round together, or a group of investors together? Speak a little bit to that. Why is being a lead important? Why is it sometimes hard to find a lead in a round? And what do they do?
So the lead does most of the work in working with the company to make things happen. And, I view that the role of the lead, and we probably lead 85 to 90% of what we do, but we're happy following NEA and OrbiMed and other top tier investors into opportunities when they're willing to do the work. And we expect that kind of reciprocity. But I think the most important thing is the partnership with the management team, with Kent and Richard, to really discuss, who are the right people to bring into the round and what is sort of the short list of folks that you want to introduce. And so Kent and Richard had a lot of input on, venture investors that they were comfortable with and folks that I had worked with before personally. And we were really focused not just on the firm, but also on the partner. So in the case of MBX, we got the senior partner, Carl Gordon from OrbiMed, and we got Ed Mathers, who's a senior partner at NEA, who both of them I've sat on boards with before and know how they behave and interact. And Carl has a personal connection to Indiana as well. So that was helpful to have that rapport and personal relationship. So the lead does a lot of the work once the management team's convinced the other investors that they want to come in to basically just ensure that the right process is run and the right comfort is established. And so it is often hard to get a lead on board and get them signed up or get her signed up. But I think once you have her as your advocate, it really should be a partnership for finding and building the right syndicate.
Oh, that's super. And Aaron, you know, in your experience, I mean, you have a lot of experience in dealing as a limited partner in a number of funds and so forth, but you're familiar with the dynamics. When there's a large syndicate, how do they choose who's going to sit on the board? How does it impact governance?
Well, hopefully the founder, you know, is ensuring that they're picking the right board or the right lead, somebody that they feel comfortable, you know, asking the hard questions, and not just picking a friend or someone that they're easy with, but actually picking someone who knows the industry, has the experience, and is willing to, you know, frankly, push them to ensure that, you know, they're setting a good dynamic, or ensure that they're setting the right speed, the optimal speed for the rest of the team. I think that the board and the lead investors on any deal, I think that's really where they're most beneficial, in terms of not just putting together, you know, how much capital to put into the company or legal terms, deal terms, things like that, but really understanding like what it takes to grow a business, understanding the entrepreneur's you know, pains and such. You know, I joke with a lot of my founder friends that not everyone understands what it's like to make payroll on Friday. You want to ensure that you have investors, you know, who will take your call late at night, you know, if you have a question and or a concern, don't know how to deal with an issue, whatever the case may be, but just someone who's really willing to, like I said, roll up their sleeves and put in the work that, you know, I know Patrick and I know Ting do on a daily basis.
Thank you. And just in wrapping up, I'll just ask Ting and each of you to address, you know, where do you find your co-investors, and does diversity on a cap table matter? We're all part of looking at what the National Venture Capital Association is doing in their venture forward effort. And so where do you find your co-investors, and does diversity on the cap table matter? Ting?
Yeah, let me try to see if I can try to answer both of your questions in one single concept. As you might have picked up from some of the prior comment Patrick and Aaron made, venture business is still very much network driven, right? Both in terms of for the fund managers who are actively scouting and sourcing quality deal flow, as well as companies who are looking to access certain expertise, talent, or introduction to key customers or partners. So for both sides of the coin, having that, to answer your question specifically, how do you find your co-investors, is that having access to that network for us, it will be simple. I mean, it's literally going through the list of co-syndicate partners that we have worked with in the past before and had really great experience. And then it goes down to simply investors we know that may be potentially interested in this particular opportunity. And then last but not least, we tend to also mine the database like the pitch book, finding that specific point of connectivity either to our community or companies or investor like Fraser who have past success in our community in the past, but may not have recently invested until MVX came along with a great opportunity. So those are the typical ways we will look for co-investors. And on the diversity side, again, I know that's kind of come back to the network concept in terms of accessing to that mentorship, access to that LP base, and the type of talent this part of market will support us to feel like that the type of talent they're looking for, the affinity for the company leadership. Diversity is an important topic, and I know Aaron did a lot of work in terms of actively mentoring, advising emerging fund managers and diverse founders, and I'm trying to do a little more in my own vein through Elevate Ventures as well.
All right, Patrick?
Yeah, so first on the diversity point, I think 2020 was a really important year for all of us in realizing as an industry in venture, we're kind of terrible. And I think one of the things that we've started doing is putting diversity provisions into our term sheets, and other co-investors have been supportive of that, of being very thoughtful on the management team and at board level of encouraging that diversity, because we feel like it leads to better decision making. We also have started being very active in thinking about our LPs in our next fund to go after some historically Black institutions and other organizations that we think will increase the diversity of our LP base. So I think that's a really important one. And as we think about board members for our companies, we are highly focused on getting the right mix and the right diversity, both from ethnicity, gender, and otherwise. So it's been a big part of our thinking and plays a part of what we're doing every day. And I think we as an industry, and proud the NVCA has sort of embraced this, need to do far better, because we've been quite poor historically. And it's on us to make sure that we in our firms and in our companies are doing the right things.
Thank you. And Aaron, anything to wrap up?
Yeah, the short answer on diversity is yes, it is important. You know, I look at it the same way I feel about breathing. You should just do it. You know, there are lots of studies out there that can show you that, you know, more diverse teams perform better. You know, diverse portfolios perform better. Diverse fund managers perform better. There are stats out there, but I think just as important, you know, like Patrick mentioned, there was a lot of eyes on this industry in 2020, and you're starting to see VCs, I think, not start to pay attention, but I think making a more intentional effort around, you know, their hiring processes, retention, as well as, you know, just how they look at their underlying portfolio teams. You know, are they as well following the same type of belief systems that the fund managers have? And so you're seeing the ripple effects, you know, go out, I think, beyond where they were just even a year or two ago. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And there's a lot of great organizations out there in venture capital. You mentioned the NVCA. There's also hbcu.vc, which provides internship opportunities to work at venture capital firms. So there's a lot of opportunities out there to improve. And, you know, for anyone that has questions or, you know, would like to see what everyone else is doing, feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I've just given Aaron the last word, and we're going to move to wrap up now. And I have the pleasure of introducing Jim Fielding, who's our executive in residence, and he's going to send us all, you know, on our way. Thank you, Jim, and thank all of you for coming.
Yes, thank you, Terry. Hi, everyone. I'm thrilled to be part of this. I joined the team early in the new year as an executive in residence, which basically means I'm in-house advising and special project person. The thing that's amazing about working with this group is that you learn every day. And I think today's annual meeting was just another example of how strong IU Ventures is and will be in the future. So the first thing I wanted to say was to thank all the panelists and all the presenters today for the very informational sessions that you provided. I also want to thank the IU Ventures team for organizing this meeting, especially Samantha for all our hard work in pulling it together. And really, you know, if you look on this slide, we love ending on this slide because the work that IU Ventures does obviously greatly impacts the Indiana University ecosystem and our state. But what we're realizing, and I think we showed it even on today's call, is that we're really impacting the country and ultimately the world. And what we want from all of you that have attended this meeting is just to stay connected with us and collaborate with us and bring your time, talent, and treasure to us. And so, you know, you can donate with us through the Philanthropic Venture Fund. You can invest with us through the Angel Network and join the Angel Network. And certainly the new program that John introduced, connect with us through the Founders and Funders Network. We know how busy you are. We know how many of these Zoom calls and meetings you're on every day. And so we really appreciate you taking the time to spend an hour with us. All of us are reachable at any time. We've shared information throughout on the chats. You know how to get a hold of us, and we wish you all a very good day.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks all for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you.